set for this live show. We all ready to get it. Get y'all some Bitcoin. Welcome me back to the Cosas Verde show, where we're going to cover some Bitcoin price action, Ethereum, some traditional markets, and we'll end with looking at the live questions for anybody who might be newer. I typically scan down the live questions in the second half, and I usually address first questions from YouTube community tier members, whether it's the loyalty or the Cryptillion tier, because they have emblems next to their questions, and that's one of the benefits of being in the YouTube tier. So you can check that out by hitting the join button below most of my videos, and another video pop up describing your options to you. And Twitter, Cosas Verdes #2, and the Discord links are in the description section. So with no further ado, actually, let me change this. So with no further ado, Bitcoin, once again, you have a big origin line right here. Massive line. Rejection, failure pattern, potential higher low. You're looking at this in the larger sense. And the big question is it going to make a higher low here or not? Or is it coming down over here? And if it does come down, the chances of it breaking out of this formation is pretty low. And if you look at things on a more micro chart, within that same context, let me go to the 1 hour chart. The area where it has a chance to put in a higher low is the middle of this ascending range. It is in the point of control. So there is a chance here. And one thing I need to note that is I did let folks know on YouTube and Discord and all that about 3 to 4 days ago. I think the next few days until August 8th is going to be a horrible, choppy time the price is going to be too choppy. It's going to be a bad time to be trading, and we've had essentially choppy price action, fairly directionless, just up, down, where you would only be able to trade extremely small time frames, like 3 to 15 minute charts. So, and I think that this green line here, being roughly Tuesday of next week, you might have more of the same until then. So this higher low might be looking like it's forming a higher low just because it's just naturally choppy, and it breaks down next week. I don't see resolution of this idea that I started off with, higher low or not higher low. It almost seems like that's not going to be known until next week, and we're going to get more boring, choppy stuff. But we do have very specific lines where we can be alert and realize that the odds are changing, where, okay, it looks like it's coming straight down to the 20K range, or, hey, it looks like it's going straight up to the 25K range, which are really the two options, and those are the next stop zones, whether it's first moving down or moving up. So let's go get some Bitcoin. All right, is this going to make a higher low or not? In the difficulties of figuring out what's going to happen next, you always have potential fake outs around key / important lines. And you have an extremely important EMA creeping around price right now, which is the weekly 10 EMA, which I'll throw on. So if there's going to be a trick play that's going to make it look like Bitcoin will bounce from here, it's possible that you do get a totally tradable bounce. But on that bounce, it doesn't ever truly make its, actually not truly, but it just doesn't make its way up here to the next pit stop. Rather, the bounce could simply be indicative of, in hindsight, once it fully plays out, is it bounces here just to be able to do a rejection, then a failure pattern. So rejection means it comes perfectly up to it, and failure means that then it goes above it and then fails below. It's a very, very common pattern that happens both on straight lines or EMAs like this here. Rejection, failure. Or in this case, rejection, come up shy, then failure, and then rejection, and then failure. So you had a rejection pattern, failure pattern on a small time scale, and on your more larger time frames, you had a perfect rejection and then a failure pattern later. So it's very common in that same, so that happened on the straight line. The same thing could be what this next bounce is. It forms a low or high, and it simply plays out a very, very common pattern: rejection then failure, or failure then rejection. That might be what happens. Personally, I'm not going to try to trade up to catch that move up. I would be personally more interested in seeing how price, how it starts behaving if that were to happen around the weekly 10, because if it gets above it of the weekly, so you can really zoom in there, right? So let's say once price bounces here, let's say it bounces and it comes up to the weekly 10, something like the weekly 10 does this, right? It's right over here. If you zoom in, what I would be looking for is a good area to go short, essentially, because let's see here, where does price really play like this? So even if price gets above it, let's go down to 15-minute candle. Now I'm going to have to go backwards again, sorry. Let's go back. A little bit more chaos on this line so you can see what I'd be looking for. But once it gets, come on. Yeah, so here you go. Here's a rejection failure pattern. This is perfect. Rejection, then failure pattern. It happened more immediately, but that's and the weekly 10 was straight. Here it's falling, but the same thing could happen with the falling red line: rejection, then failure. But that's what just happened. But if it does get fully above, what I would be looking for is something like this. So this was a failure pattern, but it stuck its higher low, then got above, used it as support. I think that in this next move up on the higher low, Bitcoin could do something to this effect, where you have the same thing happen, but right here, instead of going up to make new local highs, I think after it gets above and uses that support, I think you're going to see it start going below it and using it as resistance, and that is what I would be looking for. I would be a little bit too hesitant to want to short Bitcoin aggressively around there, because there is a high chance that it goes, that it gets continuation all the way up to 25K. So I don't want to aggressively just short into this necessarily, even though it would have worked here. That was the trade. It would have been 100% perfect. It's a failure pattern above the. I might have had a trade set up for that. I don't remember. Shame on me if I didn't, because this was a perfect one. It's a failure pattern on the trading channel, and it's a rejection of the weekly 10. Like, what more obvious setup could you have? So it is possible, but because of this potential higher low, and it's the fifth time this line would be tested, I just think continuation is too possible. So instead, I would be looking for price to get above the weekly 10, use it as support, and then break down from it. And it wouldn't just necessarily tank. You would see the small candles interacting with this bearishly before it broke down. And I think that would give you the best edge for a downside move, as opposed to just blindly guessing right when it gets to that red line. So imagine the red line's like this. Right when it gets to the red line, going short. I don't think I'm going to try doing that. So I want to be really specific with what I'm saying. But that's personally what I'm looking out for. I'm not excited about being long. In my video was it my last live video? Yeah, where it says incoming dump, that thumbnail. If you haven't seen that, and again, if you're watching the recording, it might pop up here if you want to watch that. But and I'll link you to it at the end for anybody watching the recording of this. But there is a big sign in the stock market saying that crypto is going to be brought down very heavily alongside the traditional market pretty soon. The initiation of that could happen as early as tomorrow. And I say initiation of it. I'm not saying the big move, 10% down days. No, I'm not saying that. But that's where support starts failing, and over next week, and maybe some move down begins, and then the next week get the retest of it, and then the week after, then everybody gives up being bullish and it just tanks. So things getting potentially really bearish by the middle or end of August, if not a little sooner. So you might want to watch that video. But so with that in mind, that's why I don't want to trade up here. I'm more interested in trading down. And it's a bear market. even though we're in ascending channel. But I don't know. I just think it's going to be a lot safer. That's what's going through my mind. You don't have to hold the same opinions. If you're having a great, I mean, honestly, just look at this. Had I followed channel rules and just taken profits within 1.5 to 2% of raw price, simply longing my line once, twice, 3 times, I could have taken profit within 1.5 to 2% range. Long here, take profit at 2%. Bam, would have taken profits here. Nice trade. And I would have done it again. And I would have been able to do it thrice and then get stopped out on the third one. But that's great. If you're 3 for 4 on the same trade and you get stopped out on the fourth, that's totally worth it. Right? So I'm not trying to say it's not worth it, but for me, I don't want to trade this choppy mess. But it is doable. And unfortunately, you'd have to probably use more leverage than what I, as a content creator, ever even talk about to trade smaller moves. So as a content creator, even on Discord, I'm not suggesting that stuff. I'm more suggesting folks to take it easy and go outside and do something else. But what am I looking out for right now is the bottom of this point of control. Because if it breaks, it's going to come back up and test it and likely then come straight down to 21,600. So it won't. I don't expect it necessarily to come all the way down immediately. I think it'll lose this as support. So this line right here. I think this line could be lost as support if it's broken, right? If it's broken, it lost as support, but then it'll come up, use it as resistance, and then come straight down to 21,600. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And so immediately, this support line, if you want to know horizontally where is that, it's roughly at 222.80. So around, just say 22,250. Let's call it 22,250. If that breaks, then you're probably going to have some retest of it, and then it's going to break down straight to 21,600. For, it'll be less than $1,000 move, but that it would initiate it pretty quickly. And what I'm looking for on the way back up so this is very short-term time frame stuff, right? It's the daily 10. Just look at this. The daily 10 is getting ready to cross what? The top of the point of control. So you have resistance and structural resistance. A very strong EMA resistance because the daily 10 is heavily traded. Heavily traded. People will become sellers at that. Or shorters or whatever you want to call them. They'll become bearish. And it's a structural area of resistance that was support. A lot of support on the small time frames. So I'm going to be interested to see, even before the weekly 10 comes into play, which might not happen, but it easily could at this point. But very, very short-term time frame. It's all about this level here, the bottom and the top of the point of control. And those are the ramifications. If Bitcoin can get above the daily 10 and above this, then you're going to go test the weekly 10. It's an if-then statement. If you break below 22,250, you're going to use it as resistance, and then you're going to break down to 21,600. So in the very meantime, if you think about it as three zones here, that's just really the easiest way to look at it here. Let's go ahead and do something like this. So one zone here, nothing's changed. Your next zone here, and bam. 3 zones. And this zone, it could go either way. Once you break into the lower zone, you're going to come test the second zone and then go back down to the bottom of this zone. Even if you touch this zone a little bit, it's like lava, or maybe not lava, like quicksand. You touch it and you try to get out. Well, before you do it, you got to touch bottom before you can try to bounce out of it. Something to that effect. Quicksand. Right? But conversely, if it can get back into the top zone, then I think it's going to have a natural affinity. Price simply wants to touch the daily 10. So if you start getting back into the top zone and use this as support, then it's very, very, very likely going to go hit the weekly 10. And so it's just a 1, 2, 3 zone mentality. And if you play basketball or football or whatever, it's just, think of it as zones. And again, what I'm saying right now is very short-term time frame stuff. But that's probably all that's going to happen for the next 4 days is what you're seeing right here. I find it a little unlikely that anything outside of these zones is going to happen until Tuesday of next week. I don't see resolution, and so if you're not a very small time frame mentality person, which it's fine if you're not, maybe like the 1 hour, 4 hour and daily charts or the weekly chart or something, and you swing trade or whatever your case is. But this is probably the most valuable time frames and the valuable things to be just in general to know and to look out for until we get resolution. Hopefully next week. We have Friday, so let's change topics here. Friday could be a little tricky. I posted on Twitter my calendar for Discord, and on those I include the high impact economic data. There are 3 different high impact things coming out tomorrow. It's not nearly as integral as Jerome Powell, Fed chair of the U.S. Speaking. It's nothing to that effect, but some weird trickery could happen where price tomorrow, especially in the morning, breaks into the top zone, goes to the bottom zone, and lands in the middle zone. And honestly, that might be exactly what happens. I'm not joking. It's actually a really good guess. Or overnight, you break down, and then you scream up, and then you go back to the middle zone. It is possible. So what I said at the beginning, if you break below this, you'll likely hit your head as resistance. There is an exception. If it's below here and starts rising around 8:30 a.m., so this is New York time, between 8:30 and 9:30, I wouldn't expect this to be used as resistance. I would expect it to go up a lot and do something tricky. So outside of that window of an hour and a half tomorrow morning, so that would be 11 p.m. at night on Friday that would be 11 p.m. at night for Australians. So it'd be a nighttime for Australia, early morning for America, and then early afternoon for Europeans. But right around 8:30 a.m. New York, I do have an exception to what I said. If it's already broken below here, you can't see. If things float down at nighttime, all right. So let's say things float down at night, and then 8:30 comes, then you see it racing up. I would not expect a rejection. I would expect it to come at least to the top or higher, okay, within that 1.5 hour time frame. And if it happens to be here, okay, during tomorrow's or in the pre-market open around 8:30 a.m., so the market's open, traditional TradFi opens around 9:30. If it's in the middle and it breaks below, I would also kind of have the hunch that it'll immediately zip back up and then land in the middle. So if it does happen to be here tomorrow, whichever way it goes first, I would expect it to then go the opposite way and then land in the middle. I would have a high likelihood of it landing back in the middle if you get volatility around that time, right? But, so that's if it starts there in the middle at that time. If things slow down at night, and then it starts here around that time, I think it could actually, I think that would actually give it a decent potential to get more continuation to the upside. But I would also be aware of the idea that it could start here, race up at market open, and then also come back to the middle, right? But if it does flow down here at night and races up in the morning and breaks through here, I think this situation has a greater chance of getting continuation up to the weekly 10 up here at around 24,000 than if tomorrow morning price is still in the middle zone. If it's in the middle zone, I think it's going to have a greater chance of, no matter what happens, it's going to break back to the middle and just do this the whole weekend. And if it floats up overnight, I don't know what I would think about that. I wouldn't trust it, but I think it could come straight back down at market open and then actually continue up. But I would expect a trick play no matter what. Whether it's in zone 1, 2, or 3 tomorrow in the morning pre-market hours, I would expect some trick play, but I would honestly be a little bit more bullish if it started the day off down here, because I would expect that to be your mini bear trap. As weird as that is, That's how that market works, and it's going to drag Bitcoin down if that happens. So I don't say that kind of thing a lot. Lower price, I'd be more bullish, but it's just so many times that it's perfect timing. It floats, and then the news or 9:30 happens, and it goes boom, straight up. All right. And if it floats up at night, I would actually be hesitant. I would actually think it's going to come straight down and then maybe come back to the middle. So a bunch of choppy stuff. It's going to be hard to play. It's going to be really hard to play, and doing nothing could be the most valuable thing to do, unless, of course, you're trading on 1 minute to 5 minute time frames and you're a small time frame trader. It doesn't matter what price is doing as long as you have 2% to work with, which even here you still do. This is like 2.5% moves. Good to go. So what I'm saying doesn't apply to 100% of everybody. I don't want to, but for the majority of people, this is a great time not to be trading, and that's Bitcoin. All right, let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum is looking a little bit different than Bitcoin, namely because Bitcoin has been using the weekly 10 as upper resistance, and the daily 10 is lower support, and it's been bouncing between there. What Ethereum has here is the flashing here is the daily 10. So let me make the daily 10 like a different color. Let me make it white. Usually my 10s are all red, but since they're both 10s, I want to distinguish it. So the daily 10. So this is structured a lot. Let me zoom out. 1 hour chart. There we go. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum have been struggling to get above an origin line. But Ethereum, it might use both of these guys as support. However, bad thing of it is if it breaks below here and uses them as resistance, it would probably have a more severe down move than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dominance would begin going up most likely. Bitcoin dominance would start having gains, and Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart would go down significantly because Ethereum simply has more space to go down before it finds double support, which is at this horizontal, which touches the origin line, and I covered this last time at about 1350. So if it breaks below here, it's got a lot more to go. Does it have a chance to make a higher low at 1500? Yeah, so this is about 1500 right here. Yeah, it could, especially if a fake out move happens early in the morning, like I was talking about on my Bitcoin portion of this. If the high impact data makes it wick down and pre-market open, yeah, it could easily bounce because it's just going to go like this. It's going to go straight up or straight down, straight up, straight back in the middle. If that move happens at 8:30, around anywhere close to 8:30 a.m. New York time on Friday, August 5th. So I think that 1500 has a good chance of being support if the move down happens at that specific time. But if it's later in the day, Ethereum has done something like this, and then it comes up and uses all of these two EMAs as resistance, and then starts breaking down, I don't think 1500 is going to hold it. It'll have to come down to 1365 or whatever I said earlier. Roughly 1365. Does that make sense? So Ethereum has bigger and more obvious implications, but it's still going to have it's gonna go with Bitcoin's trick play, the TradFi trick plays at the beginning of the day. So Ethereum it moves right with Bitcoin during those trick plays as well. So it will be prone to that, and I think that this horizontal could come into play. I'm not giving you a long signal. If it hits that at 835 and you 100x leverage, with all your account, that's not my fault. And I don't get credit if it works. Like I'm not giving you trade signals. I do that for Discord VIPs. And the last 3 days, I've recommended my Discord community not trade at all. And I've been saying on YouTube too. It's just choppy, directionless stuff. I think it was actually in hindsight, I've been saying it for 3 days, and it's been 3 days where it's been horrible price action. Not very good to trade the way I do things. So I'm not giving you trade signals. Don't 100x long this if it hits it at 835. And not use stops. So you can trade responsibly, try it, but I'm not giving any trade signals. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not giving financial advice. Ethereum to the upside has also an obvious breakout point is this origin line, and it's ascending. So if you don't have the same origin line that goes back years like mine, well, just use these two wicks from July 24th and July 18th. That's it. Make a straight line. That's where you're. So if you can see it, got to get above, use it as support, and start creeping up over this horizontal. It's gonna fly. So both up and down is going to be fairly obvious, but look, there is a lot of space that you can have fake outs both ways. Look, that's 10%. There's so much space for weird stuff to happen here. So much space. Right? Especially if that, because that's a lot of space for that, the trick plays to happen at market open. It's got a lot more playroom than Bitcoin does. So Ethereum could get really volatile tomorrow morning on Friday, August 5th. It could get, its playroom is very big. And you can see it's just dancing around these lines. And where are these two key EMAs? Right in the middle of this and here. It can dance on both sides. So it can now, again, later in the day, though, after the dust settles on whatever trick plays might or might not happen on Friday, if you do see these two EMAs being used as general resistance and it starts going like getting slumpy below, this horizontal, if it breaks below here again, after using these two as resistance, it's probably going to, like your target is, you can feel pretty confident with that measure, with the idea that it'll bounce here, come up, and then come down. Bounce at 1500, but then make its way down. So those are all the key levels for Ethereum. I guess I didn't give you a price for the upper side. So for the upper side, it's around 1710 for the next couple of days. So 1710, 1500 for a possible bounce, and this could be in the open market trick play, and then lower targets if these two, the daily 10 and the weekly 10, if they end up used as support, your lower targets, it'll trigger a move down to 1360. Wouldn't happen all in 1 hour, wouldn't happen all in one day, probably get a bounce at 1500, but that in the end, that's probably at least to where it would go. And that's what we have for Ethereum. It's very clear, cut and dry type of stuff, but what makes it difficult is the playroom. There's so much playroom here. So even though it's clear, cut and dry, this makes it tough. And I still maintain it might be better to do nothing at all. Unless, again, it happens at the end of the day, you start getting a lot of that resistance. And the early market stuff has boiled down. Maybe there, start thinking about getting confident with positions. And that is all I'm looking at on Ethereum. Hopefully that you find some helpful ideas in that. Right. Traditional markets, they ended ambiguously. Can't tell. I still can't tell if it's going to pop up here or not. This is SPX. It's closed right now, right? It doesn't open until tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. So and all of the futures closed fairly ambiguous. Actually, this NASDAQ is closing kind of bullish, actually. Not kind of, it is bullish. That's straight up bullish, which makes me think that Bitcoin does have a damn good chance of coming up to, it's got a darn good chance of coming up to its weekly 10 at $24,000 over the next, potentially even tomorrow. So this could, it does, the traditional markets are saying that Bitcoin in the cards does have a potential to bounce hard off the bottom of this point of control. It could be a big one. But I'm personally not interested in that. But I wanted to follow up with the idea that while I'm not interested in that, it could be a big play if that's your comfort zone. You're okay with a counter trend trade. Well, technically it would be with the trend because the trend is technically up right now. The daily trend is, but in bear market, I'm just saying most longs are a counter trend trade for now. Even that's technically incorrect. The daily trend is up. 1 hour and 4 hour trend are down, but the daily trend is up. Depends on the time frame you're speaking. So I did that fast. 30 minutes, traditional market, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. Boom. We're that was good. All right. I didn't blab too much. So let's so for anybody who jumped on here, I'm going to start looking at the questions now. And just know that if you're not a tier member, you don't have an emblem next to your name. So in the live chat, as you're seeing, why do they have a circle with a star? And it's because they're part of the YouTube here. I'll probably skip your questions unless I have time at the end, okay? But a lot of times the YouTube tier members ask enough questions to take up the rest of my time here. So here we go. Ready for some BTC knowledge? Yeah, it's just this is some boring ass price action. And the dog I was talking about that was sick, I had to put him down. Yeah, I'm really bummed out. I only had him about a month or so. That giant schnauzer who, if you saw on Twitter, I was watering my dog and he was acting all stupid, biting the water. Yeah, bowel obstruction. I did not know that was a thing. And it was his like fourth time. He had already, so the previous owners got a hold of him, he had already had surgery. And then in my house, he had pooped up like 8 socks. And my wife hid it and didn't tell me about it because it happened at the point where I was still telling her no. But she told me after the fact. And then he puked up like a glove and a towel in my office. And the fourth one got him. I couldn't, yeah. There's nothing that could be done besides, and even that he was too weak for like the surgery and stuff to cut him open again. So yeah, I've never lost a young dog. He's only like 3. Sucked. Anyway, yeah, that's a bummer. So that's what I was doing last night, is putting the dog down for my first time ever. I guess, being like in my mid-30s, if that's my first time doing that, I guess I should consider myself fortunate. But it's all right. Here we go. Let's look at some questions. From Cryptillion to VIP YouTube, just powering through the live. I see you. All right, I see you, Mike. I do not have any questions this evening. Just want to thank you for your existence. My wife would laugh at that. I wish I never met him. No, I'm just kidding. Keep up the transparent work. Yeah, I will. I'm trying. I'm trying. All right, Tim. You see at best BTC? Yes. Okay, so somebody's asking, do I see best chance Bitcoin 25K in the near future? Yeah, I don't see a rally above that happening anymore. I'm considering it as a possibility, but it is not in my top 3 with what's happening in the stock market with these bearish crosses. I would say it's in the top 5 possibilities, right, above 25,000. But most of if I had to like do price paths over the next 2 weeks, and I could only choose 3, none of them would be sustained over 25,000 bucks right now. Even if it bounces here, I think it's going to fail that line. It either get rejected by it, fail it, or not even get there because the weekly 10's right here. Or honestly, what I think is maybe even more possible. Okay, so Bitcoin has been we've been talking about, or a lot of people talk about Bitcoin getting separated from traditional markets. It's been separated in the wrong way. Traditional market's been going up the last 2 days. Bitcoin's going down. So if that kind of continues here and Bitcoin's being weaker than NASDAQ, it's going to get rejected by the daily 10 and then go down. This is the daily 10 with the point of control. It could get stopped here and then crash. Like, yeah, so these are my 3 things. Either the daily 10 as resistance. So yeah, actually, that's a good question. That's an easy way. On any pop-up, I think daily 10 as ultimate. So you could have a failure above it, right? But anyway, daily 10, weekly 10, and 25 horizontal, because that matches up with the channel as well. So it's double resistance. Yeah, that's. And which one do I think is most? If I had to guess one, I would guess it wants to touch its weekly 10. So before this green line, I think it's going to want to play with it one more time. It might not be the weekly 10 way up here. It could be, the weekly 10 by that point. It could easily be down here. And it like that. That might be my primary guess. But that would also mean the daily 10 is not what is rejecting it, right? The ultimate rejector. I think the weekly, if I'd make one guess, I think the daily 10, or the weekly 10 will be the ultimate rejector point. It will be a perfect rejection like it was here. So zoom way in here. Let's go to the 3-minute chart, just so you can see how perfect that was. It was near perfect. Watch. Look, when I say it's the most important EMA in all of crypto, I'm not joking. Look at that. I'm not saying it's going to be as perfect of a rejection as what you're seeing here, but it could be a failure instead of rejection. But in the end, I think the weekly 10 will be the pressure down that gets Bitcoin to fly down. And if we look at it over here on a fresher chart, or a less busy chart, look, this weekly 10's crossing another origin line. That's, in my opinion, is that as strong as a bearish cross of two EMAs, like the weekly 10 going below the weekly 21? No, that's super bearish. But this is getting ready to cross. Actually, let's backtest this. I don't know how great of a hit rate it's going to have, but let's just see how impactful that might be. I'll go to the daily chart, and I still have the weekly 10 on. So here, the weekly 10 was about to cross the origin line, and then it came down. Here, the weekly 10 crossed the origin line. That's what pushed it down. Okay. Here, this is another origin line. I kind of have it like a point of control. That's what pushed it down. Was the weekly 10 crossing below this, and it all being used as resistance. I mean, so I guess it does. Here you go. And this big drop down happened as the week. So it happened a little bit, it front ran it, but it happened right as this got a negative slope and the weekly 10's interaction with this origin line. So I guess it actually, the last like 4 or 5 times, it definitely had something to do with it. Wonder if it has something to do with breakouts as well, though. Let's see here. So you take off price. Look at that. Actually, this is something I've never looked at. Look, even the weekly 10 used the origin line as support. That's weird. I've never spotted that before. Look, weekly 10 used this origin line, which is the middle of all origin lines on Bitcoin, kind of the point of control, and it used it as support here too. Wow, I've never looked at it like this. Huh. Interesting. So it can work both ways, because that was a big ass rally right here. I think that took it to 14K, 3,200 to 14K. So that would be evidence that it's possible the weekly 10 wants to bounce on this, but right now it looks like it's getting ready to cross. So let's zoom back in there. It doesn't look like it's going to bounce to me. Let's put price back on. That might help too. Yeah, it's crossing now after a rejection. So rejected from the origin line, getting ready to cross. This is looking pretty bad. This is looking really bearish. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be used as support to me. You'd have to have a hot weekend for this, or a hot, next week to. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, this looks like it's getting ready to play down to the downside over the next 2 weeks, and potentially pretty damn hard too. Or it could just creep like this. So what gets the big flood here in this fractal is it crossed the origin line, but once it crosses the lower support of this rising channel, so Bitcoin could just do not interesting stuff for, gosh, this would be a lot of days, folks. Nope, not as many as I thought. That's 18 more days. Yeah, so all those reasons, I don't see above 25 yet. All right. Hey, Tim. So OTA, nice to see you again. Always like seeing you on here, OTA. Thoughts on lever balls, BLZ? I bought those kids' books. I bought 2 or 3 of them from the same authors who make... you're supposed to read it to like a 6-month-old who doesn't understand anything, and it makes the parent crack up about like something lick my balls, or I don't know if you've seen that. And then one's go the fuck to sleep, but it's almost, yeah, it's like a Dr. Seuss with just really immature either sexual humor or cuss word humor, but it depends on the book. So one book is balls, all about hairy balls, and Sally kicked one of Henry's balls so hard he lost one. Shit like that. But anyway, balls. Here we go. Reminded me of that book I bought, but my youngest is now 4, so I don't get to I can't read that kind of stuff. All right, so it's flirting with the weekly 10. Damn, this is volatile as hell. My goodness, what was this? Ugh. Man, if Bitcoin legs up, this is gonna have a power move. It would have the chance to go straight to 17 cents, up to the bottom of here, the top of these guys, the top of that, the top of this. But I just don't think Bitcoin's gonna get it. But this structure here is looking pretty good. But however, think about it this way. Think of this as a low, and think of this as one oscillation. Maybe it's at the top of the oscillation, so before it actually gets to move up, it needs to make a 45-degree angle low to this. And in the end, what you get, and Bitcoin could do this too. This is something I've actually wanted to talk about, but on YouTube, it doesn't do me very well as a content creator to talk about boring price action and to anticipate it, because no one wants that. It doesn't get views, and it doesn't help me, like keep doing what I'm doing. But I could easily see it coming down here. So for one oscillation, and then trying above, I could see something like that happening, because this low here, it might need a 45-degree angle establishment before it continues going up. And actually, Bitcoin could do the same damn thing. Bitcoin could. So that's what I see for balls. I'll go back to it, but Bitcoin could easily do something like this. So see this weekly 10 here? Let me extend it. Watch. Let me go to the weekly chart. Make that red. Watch. Bitcoin on a weekly scale could easily just go like this. And look how many days that would be. It could look that's just normal freaking price action. Normal interaction with the weekly 10. Right? Let me make this a different color, like yellow. Okay? Look how long this would be. This would suck. That's 150 days. But it could easily happen. Multiple higher lows. You essentially form a big triangle. Ascending triangle, but then it breaks down. Yes, this could easily happen under the weekly 10 for 150 more days. I'm telling you, it can happen. And I'm telling you, it would suck. It would not be very fun. But that would be a great time to learn how to trade really small time frames. So, and then people who aren't used to those time frames could start appreciating them and realize, hey, the benefits of really, really small time frames is it doesn't matter what is happening on the weekly. I can literally trade the same way. There are big benefits to it. Yeah, you can trade any time of day on lower time frames to a certain degree. Balls. Yeah, the balls, BLZ or whatever it is, you don't have a weekly closure above it. So, did this close? Yep, this one did close above. Let's throw on the daily 10. Ooh, it's right at it. Oh, it wants to spike up. I can't tell what this is going to do. That's a tough one. Even, with the idea that it depends on Bitcoin, which is an obvious answer. This one's tough. When all your EMAs are smashed down in there, all you can do is realize, okay, if it goes up, that's where it's going. If it goes down, here's where it might bounce. And be prepared for both. That's honestly, yeah, I can't tell which way it's going to go. Which is a good answer, because that's my opinion on Bitcoin too. I can't quite tell which way it's going to go. And if it does go down and it gets this possible bounce point, it could fake up first and then head down. So this one's going to be tough. I think most of crypto is going to be tough, but these are the two targets: 45-degree angle from this wick low, and then this horizontal at around 17 cents. That's what I would be paying attention to have a good, this would be a midterm time frame thinking. Your midterm time frame guide. Short-term time frames, it's going to be chaotic and back and forth. I don't want to make a guess on short term. I would only give guidance on midterm. Those are the key areas I'd be looking for, which is a lot of price action on both sides, right? Like, you know, I'm not giving you anything specific here, but let's see if I can find anything more interesting. Let's look at the 200. Let's see which 200 it's following the best. The magic 1 hour 200 looks pretty good to me. If above, generally good. If below, generally bad. And right now, it's hovering on both sides. And it's using as resistance, so it actually looks like it wants to come down. Let's use the 30 minute, see if that... Ooh, it actually is using the 30 minute better. Yeah, the 30 minute 200 is where it's at on this one. Back here, it wasn't using it quite as much. I don't know what it was using, but recently... price action on this, the 30-minute 200 is by far your best guide. So right now, generally bearish. Not uber bearish, but it looks like it's going to leg down first and hit this trend line right here. So that's your first bounce point. It looks like it's going to come down to 9.3 cents right there. I think that's the most probable. When it does bounce, does it get back over the 1 hour 200? I don't know. But I could see this move happening right there. That would be my low-term time frame guess, so I can give you a little bit more value than giving you all the mid-term time frame generalities. Lever. Damn. So this one came out with a vengeance. I don't know. Coming out in the bear market, man, it's just so probable it's going to go below there before 2024. I would not see this as an accumulation zone. I think this is going to end up being a cliff. So hopefully that's a valuable statement. For this being so new with this big move up like last month, I personally would not want to be spot trading this, because when it falls off this cliff and you're holding on to those coins, it's going to go down hard. It'll bounce at 0017. It'll bounce at this wick, but that's a lot of percentage. From the middle here, that's 38%. It'll have a strong 38% down, but I view this as a cliff. I'm not liking that one. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna use. I think it's forming a resistance zone. I don't think it's forming a support really. Yeah, or it's forming support, a good support that's gonna get broken and then be a strong resistance. What EMA is it using? It's too young. Probably use the 5-minute 200. Five-minute. Let's try it. See which EMA fill looks good. Let's try the 15-minute. Using the 15-minute EMA fill, using your golden cross type of stuff, 55 and 200 EMAs, that looks like a pretty good guide on this one. So it looks like this also looks like it's going to head down and it's going to touch this again. That's an overall good guide. All right, those are those two. Yeah, Craig K. Yeah, you can ask an off-topic question. That's fine. What is your strategy to take profit at a peak just before a correction to the downside begins? That's easy. Wherever there's resistance. So it's a mixture of structural and EMA. That's it. So where do I have a line on my channel? If I'm in a long, I'm going to put on the major EMAs that price is playing with, which is the daily 10, or the weekly 10, and the daily 10. So if I long here, okay, if it touches here, where I long is, well, you have structural resistance and EMA resistance, so I would take some profits there and move my stops up, see if you can get a higher low, and then, or just get fully out of the trade, look to re-enter a higher low, and then if I were to get back in, I would then look to take profits when it hits the weekly 10, which could easily happen as it's hitting this channel line here. So so in general, I try to identify which major EMAs are in play. Daily 10, weekly 10. Okay, that's where sellers are going to come in. And then does that align with structural analysis? And for this daily 10, it really does. It's there. You're going to, that's how I do it. Structural plus EMA analysis. A lot of times horizontals too. So if you have, as opposed to my ascending line, so like right here, if the weekly 10 were still up above there and it was, like the weekly 10 were up here, instead of the channel lines, so let's say this is the weekly 10 up here. If I were in a long because Bitcoin was going like this instead, I would, long some type of rip up or try to get in position, and I would take profits because you have two different groups of sellers who will come in. People who look at horizontals and people who use the weekly 10 EMA. So it's where you have multiple groups of different people looking at the same area for different reasons. That's where. And that's also where you would want to enter too. But entries can get really tricky because the algos know what people are looking at and they make it harder to enter. They make it a lot harder to enter, but profit taking at those areas, you're out. So you're exiting. It's a lot easier to take exact profit taking points. But yeah, I think that would be my answer. I try to mix structural analysis with whichever main EMAs are in play. What else? Sometimes I just use structure only, like a horizontal crossing with one of the, like this, a horizontal crossing with this line. If I thought that price were going to go up there, hell yeah. If it gets above the daily, rips above the daily 10, I would take profit right there. Horizontal, so two structural things crossing. Because two different groups of people are going to see the same thing and become sellers for totally different reasons, which means more sellers, and therefore I better take profits. Yeah, I think that's my answer. Yeah. All right. That's not an off-topic question at all. That's a great question. And another good answer could be, so if I could answer that more personally, in this choppy market, my targets for taking profit, it's going to be around 2% of raw price. So if I were to long here, I would do it at the daily 10 because it's so choppy that I want to lock in my profits quickly within 2% moves. And then if I'm out and I can catch, and I think it's going to continue up, I just wait for like a 15-minute oscillation down when the 15-minute Stokes are down. If I think, or even the 5-minute Stokes, if I think it's going to keep going, catch the higher low and re-enter and take profits after another 2% move. So there are different ways to answer that. But the first answer is probably in general more valuable, just understanding buyers and sellers mentality and different groups of people saying the same thing at the same place for different reasons. That's a big concept. Like, that's a very valuable concept. But another way to answer is my strategy, during choppy times when I don't expect a resolution. So in a compression move, especially at the end of a compression move like this, where stuff gets boring, I just try to take profits quickly at often a structure or EMA. But a lot of times the parameters of my choosing where to take profit are restricted. Those parameters are restricted by the fact that I'm looking for something around 2% because this is choppy stuff. I know I need to be in and out. So the ultimatum is the restrictions of my 2% mentality there. Something I didn't mention. In the first segment of my answer. All right. I skipped over some questions. DCF, nice to see you. Can you take a look at Alpha 0 A0. It's a new chain trying to compete with Phantom, according to DCF. I'm seeing it a lot of hype on socials. I might do a sold next bull run, or might outdo. So, might do a soul as in a big move up. Price discovery down A0. Okay. Well, it's on very, very small exchanges, so it's not going to do a Solana until it's on something bigger. KuCoin at least. Yeah, so that's why you have all these spikes here. So you can't really buy more than 150, maybe 300 at a time. So if you're ever market buying or market selling on this, the volume is so low that I can already tell these wicks are caused by somebody market buying with probably, I don't know, $1,500. It's probably not even that much, but they friggin' bought way up here. So all of these literally is a single person or somebody's bot. And so they had their bot trained to scan different small cryptos on these exchanges, but the bot was accustomed to having $1,500 trades, and the bot didn't identify the lack of liquidity. So it could be people's bots. It's individual people's bots or individual people hitting market buy. That's what all of this is. So I want to first off let you know that if you're picking something up that it looks like this on small exchanges, you need to test out. You need to look at the order book to see, okay, like if, in the top, so you can see all like the green numbers and all the red numbers, right? Okay, so these are green, these are red. You need to look at so if you're going to buy, you're going to be buying these orders. These are the red ones. And you need to look at the top three, assuming the price is close on each of them. Just add the value of the size of those three together and figure out how much US dollars that is. And that's as big as a buy as you can make. And I'm telling you, it's probably around $150 or less. It might be up to 300 in a bear market, but kind of unlikely. But I don't know. It actually doesn't look that bad right now. It looks pretty good. It's on top of its daily 10. That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. So the chart itself looks great. Actually, this looks pretty strong. But it is brand new. Price discovery down in this bear market. Let's see. Yeah. I would bet on price discovery down. Yeah, later in the bear. Yeah, later. Maybe even later this month. I would have definitely expected to break down, but immediately though, I'm small. I'm small now. I'm big Mario. Ate my mushroom, or whatever the noise is. But on Super Mario Brothers 1, this pattern though, screaming above the daily 10, then coming back to land on it nicely, and then having a small move up, coming to land on it nicely. If crypto and Bitcoin weren't going to take a leg down, and Bitcoin were in a bull market, this would be a hard buy. This would be a great setup for a bull market. You would expect this to fly, but it's all about the context. We're in a bear market, so it's probably going to price discovery down this year. And the key thing is, it's going to start making the move down when the daily 10 is broken. That's the only big thing in play right now is this daily 10, which is also this horizontal. From here, breakdown, all this price action and the swoop. So, yep, and because the daily 10 is going above the horizontal just by a little bit, you're going to have some price. You're going to have a obvious rejection. It's going to look like it'll get stuck in there like this. So the daily 10 will wrap around and then push it down like that. And price is going to get stuck like that once it breaks below. That's what I got for that. Yeah, that usually is what happens when you have the only horizontal and the only thing to happen. If it does break down, it'll try. Buyers will step in at that horizontal, but sellers will probably pound it down, and then all the people buying here will succumb once they see and it'll break down most likely. That would be my guess. But as of now, it looks like it could. If Bitcoin takes a rip up to 25K, it's gonna go above here. It'll do a nice. This looks like it's set for a nice move if Bitcoin can make it happen. But I don't see it happening. But it is possible. Okay. Here we go. What part of the ICO 10 is part of the ICO 10 cents and want to protect my position? Oh, of this coin? Yeah, I would say I mean, well shoot. Just I would put some friggin' okay, so if you're holding on to this, take advantage of all these people doing this. You should constantly have limit sells like 20% above price. And once they fill, it's going to go straight back down because somebody did this and then rebuy it and put the limit sells right back there. That's what I would do. You could accumulate this like mad. Because people will be hitting market buy into your limit sells. Yeah. I would, if I were interested in a coin like this, which I'm personally not, but if I were, there's a huge advantage to it, especially with these wicks. You literally, at any point in time, just always be looking to sell 10% above current price. Have, like, I wouldn't sell all of it, but I would have 30% available to sell at any time between, let's say, between 8 and 13% above current price. So current price here, right here, boom. I would have orders started at 111 and I would take them up to 116. Bam. I would have my orders right there for a third of all the coins that I have. And once it hits, what's going to happen? It's going to go boop and bam. You can buy back right where you had it. And you'll have a lot more. Yeah, this one's kind of cool for that. This is you're just taking advantage of people who don't understand liquidity. So take advantage of it. That's all that trading is. You're taking advantage of other people who guess wrong and make the wrong. Or actually, they're not even guessing. They just made a wrong move. You just have to exploit others' wrong moves. That's all you're doing. So do it. Like I'm not. Well, I can't say that. I shouldn't say that. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice to sell anything. But that's what I would do if I were interested in this. Yeah, that's an obvious good strategy in my personal opinion. Whether you share that or not, that is up to you to research and decide. Okay. What is your strategy to take profit? Okay, I already answered. Damn, that sucks, dude. Yeah. And the dog, yeah, it stinks. All right, not a TOA question, but besides monetary coins, what would you consider a good pick up in the top 100 from bear market lows to next bull run? Well, I never thought I would say this, but Cardano's going to be on my list. It's behaving pretty nicely. I think, yeah, getting through 2 bear markets and doing stronger in the second bear market after, getting 3x over its previous all-time highs, previous bull run. I'm going to say Ethereum, Cardano, Litecoin because its halving is staggered with Bitcoin. Yeah, just for coins that you invest and wait for the rip up next bull run where you're not actively trading, you're just kind of making a plan of what am I going to hold. Yeah, Ethereum, Cardano, Litecoin is going to be a good one. Even though it sucked this bull market, but its halving is in 2023, so it could lead a run. I would say I'm personally holding on to some XRP and looking to, DCA because once, either they're slapped, if Ripple slapped on the hand and just doesn't get, nothing bad happens, people are going to become buyers. And it could have its own rally independent of all of crypto. XRP is probably a good one to pay attention to or have some of if you're holding coins and looking to buy some in a bear market. maybe even Polkadot. So your big layer threes or your big layer ones, Polkadot, Ethereum, Cardano. Even though, yeah, uh, Litecoin, I would say Dash and Bitcoin. But other than that, I mean, all these new coins from 2021, the class of 2021, uh, they're just risky. I mean, you're gonna have a better bet doing research during the beginning of the next bull run and buying new coins that the new whatever's the new and best thing that the new retail people are gonna do, because that's what YouTubers will chase. Because they want as many views as possible, so they're going to talk about the new stuff. But yeah, that would be my answer. I'm just very skeptical about most things that were brand new and did well this time. Quant. So Quant isn't brand new. That might be a good one. That could stand the test of time. A lot of people would say Altcoin is going to stand because it's got a real product and is looking to actually make change in the real world. Altcoin might be a good one to accumulate in a bear market. Yeah, that's what I got. Okay. Sorry about the doggo. Lost my pet last year. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for condolences. All right, thanks, Tim, for that. Cheers. 5-figure coin in the future. So Craig, I'll skip to Craig case. Cybersecurity apps, I have no idea about. I'm not a fundamentalist, man. I'm a chart person, so I'm not the right person to ask for that. But I know that Quant it's got a lot of following and it's doing pretty well in this bear market. That might be one I actually get into during the. Yeah, it's way above its weekly 10. My goodness, that's even stronger. It's stronger than Ethereum. Shit, it's way stronger than Ethereum. Whoa. I forgot how aggressive this was. This might be the most aggressive all out there. Damn. Not even Matic's structurally that high. Wow. That is seriously impressive. What was the question about Quant? Do I have any thoughts on Quant being a 5-figure coin in the future? 5 figures could happen. Next bull market, sure. Let's look at its circulating supply and stuff before I finalize that thought. 12 million, and yeah, they're almost all in circulation. Damn, this is nice. So 5 figures would be 10K times 12 million. And that is a market cap of hundreds, millions. That's 120 billion. Oof. So it would have to get 120 billion. It would have to have a market cap bigger than Tether. But this is bull run, right? So next bull run, this is going to be over $1 trillion. I mean, hell, even Ethereum could be over $1 trillion next bull run. That actually is probably going to happen. Wow, that's crazy. A crypto company over $1 trillion market cap next bull run. Wow, that really could happen. That would put it on the top 10 next bull run. Could it happen? Well, shit, it's already in the top 50, isn't it? Yeah, right at the top 50. So, that is about as high as I could see it going. I mean, 120 billion is a big market cap. But in a bull run, I could 10K psychological number. It's possible. It really just depends. It's gonna obviously it's gonna depend, right? That's a silly answer, but what I think it would depend on is how big and sustained the next retail season will be. This time it was short. That was a short ass bull market. It was really aggressive, but it was short lived. Probably because there was too little focus. There were too many new things like NFTs and meta, and it just money was too spread out. And people stopped making money more quickly because if water pressure, you know, if it's coming out of a hose and you instantly just the hose just instantly gets big, well then it's going to trickle, even though it's technically the same original pressure from the source. But that's kind of what happened. So if the next bull run can be a little bit more focused because people learn their lesson. But new people don't learn lessons, so I don't think it'll be any different. But I think 10K could happen if the crypto space is a little bit more niche and less, hey, we're going to chase every damn squirrel that is new and purple. But if you see that happening, Quant probably won't have a great chance of hitting 5 figures. I'm not going to lie. I think it would drastically reduce its chances. So if like something similar to NFTs and something new outside of crypto that sucks what money would be in crypto outside of it, it would have a hard time doing that. Which, as we saw, even Bitcoin did, because money was sucked in too many damn places. Just penny stock BS everywhere. All right. And JPEGs. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. Okay, rock and roll. Well, hey everybody. I hope that these analyses were helpful. Let me wrap up what I'm looking at on Bitcoin real quick for you. Okay, so tomorrow, very important to realize, if you're looking at charts somewhere in the morning, New York time, okay, and you start seeing volatility, just realize it could turn around, go the other way, then land in the middle. Or if you see volatility up, probably go the other way, then go back to the middle, because that high impact economic data stuff. Look out for something like this. If you see volatility start spiking early in the morning, New York time, I cannot stress that enough. It would be slightly different if Bitcoin can trickle down overnight and then spike up in the morning. That would be playable. But if it's in the middle starting in the morning and starts spiking, it's going to be hard to play. You'd have to be in and out, and you're just going to have to guess direction, which you could easily guess wrong. And if you guess right, you're going to have to take profits very quickly. I can't stress that enough. And this line, I think, is where Bitcoin's going to start getting more aggressive one way or the other, and that happens Tuesday of next week. I cannot stress enough that this, tomorrow could be exciting in the morning early, but if I think the chance of just more sideways and choppy stuff, unfavorable to trading anything over the 1 hour or 1 hour and above. I think it's going to be maintained for the next several days. So we'll see everybody next Tuesday, same time, same place. You just got Timified Worldwide. Take it easy, everybody. Stop staring at the charts so much and go do something else.